4 hours to low tide, 68 degrees, Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, October 7th. Are we psyched for a major weather event happening right over our head this morning? Yeah, seriously. Despite the fact that the flag is hanging down and it doesn't appear to be doing anything except for fogging, there's an extraordinary weather event and I feel hyped up like a football player ready to take the field. But it's a whole different sense. Got my headset on. Hopefully that audio sounds better today with my headset on. Interesting that we have a dew in the grass, so we did have a little radiational cooling last night. We are between a weather system now in New York and Pennsylvania that came from the other side of the Pacific Ocean. I've been talking about Russia and Alaska all week. Really, part of it came from east of Japan also. That's over there. And then way out there, we have a split personality Philippe, post-tropical storm Philippe with 50-mile-an-hour winds. But Philippe is breaking into pieces. And so we have several pieces of Philippe coming at us from the southeast, and it's going to merge with that front coming at us from the west. And here's the satellite imagery of all that, and towering cumulonimbus with potential flooding rains for New York into Vermont today and this afternoon. But they're competing energy centers. So unlike last week when we had 8 inches of rain in New York City, that was one spigot of rain that fell over New York City in a high pressure system. It was just a little trough being fed by an offshore storm, and that was just one energy center. Today we have 2, 3 energy centers, so we're going to split up the energy so no one location should have severe flash flooding. And it's really going to be a play-by-play today still. What do you want to start with? Wind? All right, we've always talked about wind as air moving from high to low pressure. But we have dual low pressure systems. So if you have one low pressure system over Lake Superior, and then really 2 centers of low pressure with Philippe, wind is not only air moving from high to low pressure, but wind is air winding into the center of a low pressure system. So the system that's coming across New York wants to push air in from the south here in New England. That's what happens ahead of most cold fronts. But when you have an even more powerful storm offshore, it's the opposite. The surface wind wants to come in from the northeast. So the result is they negate one another, and we end up with very little wind here in eastern Massachusetts. I'd like to show how that works, but when I show the satellite imagery, what you see more here is the upper level flow and the tops of the clouds blowing off. You can't really see the low level circulation over Lake Superior and over Philippe. Now, it was Benjamin Franklin who discovered this with his brother when they were studying nor'easter. Well, they weren't studying nor'easters. They were studying weather. Philadelphia would have a wind from the northeast, say, on a Monday, and then Boston would have a wind from the northeast on Tuesday. So they... Oh, please stop. Sorry to interrupt. Come on. Time out. See all these little holes that were dug by the skunks a couple nights ago, and then some big ones here. So Rex smells that stuff, and he interrupts me when I'm trying to explain the very complicated process of how Benjamin Franklin discovered nor'easters. He and his brother were both avid weather watchers, and they couldn't understand if the wind was from the northeast today in Pennsylvania and then from the northeast tomorrow in Boston, there had to be a low-level circulation underneath an upper-level flow. And it was Benjamin Franklin that helped us on... Where are you? You're going inside. In the door. Go in the door. You're fired. Sorry. The upper level flow is from the south. The low level flow is trying to come in from the northeast. And off to our west, there's a flow from the south. So it's just this melange of different weather trying to challenge our weather forecast today. It still does look like there are going to be a couple stripes of real heavy rain and potential flooding. So let's just go with the Euro. I would say it's one of the least alarming. The Euro stripes of rainfall for today coming in from the south in New York, and then that's the front from the west, and then the Philippe rains mostly missing Cape Cod just to the east and going into the coast of Maine, where there may be a couple of spots of 3 to 5 inches in parts of Maine, flood watch in eastern Maine, and there may be spots of 3 to 5 inches in New York with localized heavier amounts. So there's flood potential, but in between the two, if you have air rising, cooling, and condensing over New York, and the same thing happening over Maine, somewhere in between there has to be sinking air, and that's the reason for that little hole in the precipitation over southeastern New England. So we're kind of between systems, so not a real rainy day. And just while I started talking here, just now, I just had a little puff of wind. Did you hear it? From the northeast. So I still am calling the play-by-play on the wind. Let's look at the wind graphics here. I wish I had a sector that could encompass from Ontario out to the North Atlantic, but I don't. So I have to use this sector where you can't really see the low that's over Ontario. You can see Philippe. Now, the Hurricane Center had the post-tropical storm making landfall in Maine, and maybe that's the truth, but there's going to be a second low-pressure system east of that that's going to end up being stronger, a 984. There it is, going into Nova Scotia. So it looks like Nova Scotia, if anybody, will get the tropical storm force winds. And of course, I'm trying to explain this, and there's a plane going by. It may appear that I live in a quiet area, but it's not very quiet at all. There are lots of boats and planes and stuff. I know it could be worse. I know. I'm very grateful for what I have here, including the colors coming on now. This mostly invasive stuff we're looking down at here. Bittersweet and sumac. And sumac can be pretty only for a very short time, in my opinion, and that would be right now. All right, so that's the wind aspect of this. So we have competing low pressure systems, really 3 of them, that are going to all merge into one. Here it is showing the surface features. I'm going to have to widen out for this for the national map because it's the only sector I can find, even though it shows way too much, showing what's happening here. The low that comes out of New York into Ontario, and the tropical storm Philippe become one big storm. So that is a merger of storms from the Pacific and the Atlantic over southeastern Canada. Yes, that's one of the reasons we have the most interesting weather on Earth, but I am not interested in a storm moving from east to west when there was potential for snow here. You just don't get rain to change to snow when these lows move from right to left. That takes the cold air and drives it down into Arkansas. First frost of the season in Arkansas this morning. That cold air is modified coming in our direction, so we're getting modified cold air. I also call it low barometer cold. Low barometer cold means it's going to be colder up in the sky than down near the ground, as opposed to that high barometer cold we had earlier in the week when the top of Mount Washington and Worcester Airport were the warmest spots. Now going forward after today, Mount Washington, Worcester, and especially points west on the tops of the hills are going to be the coldest spots, and it will be cold enough for snow, but maybe just freezing rain on top of Mount Washington. My friends in Vermont are saying, is it going to snow here? Jay Peak, Mount Mansfield? No, it's not. Maybe the very top of the mountain will have some snowflakes, but I don't even think you'll be able to trace a path in it when it hits the ground, because it's just too little, too late in the cold department. The cold is going to be mixed up with too much warmth. That's what happens in these big blender type situations. You want to see the snowfall map? How about if I show you the really big picture snowfall map? There's plenty of cold and snow up by the Arctic Circle, and then there's a new system coming in off the west coast. It's going to cause snow in Colorado, and meantime, this system we have now is only causing snow in Ontario. Philippe is going to turn into a snowstorm for parts of Ontario, but it's going to be high elevation, and I think it's probably overdone there a little bit. So forget about snow for now. The next big feature after this, and again, I'm not your backyard forecaster, I'm your big picture forecaster. So nice day on the water today for fishing. I'd say there's a high surf advisory to our north, but it's not going to come from a lot of wind. It's going to come from a swell. Anyhow, the big picture indicates that this upper level low is going to stall out. I'll show you the 500 millibar, and there it is, kind of the trough going through, closing off, and then that's that big blender in the sky, blending air from all of North America and the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean all together. So we get this sort of hybrid, maybe some showers Tuesday, and then a new trough comes in the west coast, and then it's a split jet stream, but it's cutting off over the northeast again today. A week from today, with another Pacific Atlantic merger, and it's going to come without any tropical systems, but we're going to have a multi-day nor'easter. Back to that big picture surface map. Here comes the low coming out of the Midwest. One low races by, looks like Thursday, Friday, then another one, then another one. So it's not a single low, multiple lows with sub 990, and that means a potential multi-day appearing to be nor'easter, but not traditional nor'easter. We're going to have the look and feel of nor'easter with the wind and the rain and the chill. It's going to be a cold one, but it's not from a system going off North Carolina and going into the Gulf of Maine. This is sort of just high pressure moving into southeastern Canada, replacing the low and causing a real wet, windy weekend again next weekend. So there's not much hope for any extended weather. Oh, Mondo wants to know, when's the dew point going to be in the 30s in Boston? I want some crisp fall feel. Well, briefly, Mondo, on Monday, dew point goes down the blue line into the 30s. But look, the next day it's challenging 60. Another perturbation coming around the south side of that upper level low is going to bring us some showers Tuesday, and then we're just in mixed air the rest of the week, and you can see the wind down there on the bottom, the wind gusting past 20 miles an hour just about every day, with the exception of today, which is kind of interesting as Philippe makes landfall. Again, competing low pressure centers. All right, so last night I had sunset right up there on our neighbor's deck. Thank you, Art and Pat. And there's a rich history of this land, as you know, if you've been following me for quite some time. My mentor, Don Kent, raised his family right over there next to us, and this was Roger's house. And still, this is pretty much the same bones as what Roger had. Well, the other two are completely redone over there. That was their mother's house. Anyhow, went over to Doug's house, Doug's place, to help with the boat yesterday, and I just am overwhelmed by Mother Nature's majesty and what happened yesterday afternoon and last evening. And I put together what was about an hour of video into about a 10-minute commentary and time lapse. Just for those who really love weather, stick around. This is a really long, but I think interesting and fascinating if you love the look of clouds and more coming up. Isn't that right, Steve? Indifferent. Thank you. Talk to you later. Tremendous contrast and illustration of sinking air, which compresses, warms, and dries, makes blue sky. And then off to the west inland, the air is rising, cooling, and condensing, making convective clouds and some downpours away from the ocean today. Fascinating. Between the front coming in from the west and Philippe coming in from the southeast. The water color is a reflection of the sky color. Blue on blue, beautiful, with a hint of fall. Steve is right down there. This is a perspective I have not been to before. That would be the former Roger Kent backyard, and this is the former Don Kent backyard. The Schlitz pool is right underneath that lawn, and here's the view looking toward Boston, where we can make a really interesting time lapse tonight with the sinking air and blue sky over the ocean, and then over the land, rising air and showers in between the incoming front from the west and a storm from the southeast. That was the time-lapse feature where the camera just takes an image every 60 seconds or so. So now I'm shifting it to video, where I fast forward the video, and I'm going to change the look. I'm going to go watch the fog coming in off of Boston, and it's just an amazing, this is the eastern end of that front that came from really Russia into Alaska on September 19th, and then out over the blue sky, that is the sinking air ahead of Tropical Storm Philippe, which is now post-tropical, and that dark line is a shadow off the clouds. The clouds are just simply amazing this evening. The satellite imagery has been just showing these feathered edges of this cloud on the eastern end of the front for so long. But now I'm going to change gears, and I'm going to focus in on Boston. And what we're going to do is we're going to put it on video, and then we're going to change the speed of the video so it's different than time lapse, to watch how this low cloud coming in off the ocean is kind of going up, over, and in between the tall buildings in Boston with the planes coming in. So here we go. 4.9 zoom. I'm going to change it to a higher zoom, the highest zoom. 9 times the zoom is the financial district. Let's see if I can get in the back bay. Just barely. Okay, financial district, back bay, the old, what they call the John Hancock Tower. Not sure how that worked out. That was another 12 minutes or so, I think. And now I'm going to switch gears again, because this cloud up above all that low cloudiness is just fascinating. It's the one that came in from Russia into Alaska on September 19th. Now it's October 5th here. And watching the leading edge of it come in. And the jet plane's taking off. So fascinating. I got the tripod up. I can't quite keep track of it. Anyhow, those clouds up there, those are called cirrocumulus, and they're the very top of the atmosphere. And they lead weather systems by sometimes 1,000 miles. I want to talk to that pilot about what's going on right now over our head. Sorry, I got a tripod out there. I had to lift over the fence. Just tremendous. Oops. All right, that was like 9 times zoom. Now I'm gonna really lower the zoom, lift the tripod over the fence again, and we're gonna do another time lapse of the leading edge of this system that came from across the Pacific Ocean, and the one over the Atlantic Ocean is still way out there. Appreciate your patience.
I have another drink, and I got to talk to you about Christine.
While I'm moving, why don't we take a look at Steve? Hi, Steve. He's probably wondering, where's Tim? Where's Tim? I'm up here. Hi, Steve. Anyhow, we're at the neighbor's house in case you haven't guessed that yet. Now I'm gonna go put the camera down again. I'm not gonna stop rolling. I'm just gonna go up like this, and we're gonna do some more time lapse. This is in single zoom now. I just love the feathery look of these clouds coming in from the west. Once again, this weather system has traveled halfway around the globe to come and screw up our weekend. Now we're at 28 minutes. The air way up there is coming in from the southwest at more than 100 miles an hour. It's creating that feathery, sort of wavy pattern up high in the sky. And now I'm going to shift gears once again, go back off toward the sunset. First we'll go up, look at the altocumulus castellanus, the cirrocumulus, not castellanus, I just love saying that word. And then we'll go back down towards the sunset, where we've had varying degrees of sun dogs, and we'll just let the sun go down. Breaking news, L1011 going over our head. That's an L1011. So fun living near an airport and having a neighbor that knows all about the planes. His name is Art. He doesn't want to be on YouTube, so there's his shadow. But he knows everything about all the planes coming and going at Logan. That's what we do here in this neighborhood. All right, back to our time lapse. All right, another interruption. Sundog.
Because I walked by, and he built this long one. It's like 7 feet long.
Shifting gears again.
And
Jet plane crossing into the Atlantic with a shadow cast on the clouds above it. All right, should we just watch those clouds up there for a few minutes and the planes that are going through? Because those planes are coming in and they're going around and landing at Logan. That's funny.
he's like an identical. Looks just like her. Actually, Tim got him started.
Tremendous. I can't even explain all the different dynamics that are occurring here. When the sky looks like it's on fire like that. So that's super cooled vapor way up in the top of the sky. And there's cirrus and there's cirrocumulus. I'm not sure how much editing I'm going to be able to do here, but I'll try and let the rest of this roll without any more editorials. We're at 46 minutes right now. Where is that dog? We don't know. Is it on that boat? Barking at the seagulls? All right. This is now a 54-minute video. I think that's enough for today. I also want to share a video from my web camera, which I'll show you in a second.
I think enough history, honey. Enough.
What's your background, your heritage?
Good question. I did the DNA thing, and it's English.
My web camera is right there, the one on the lower right. And my cat, our cat, Steve, is right there. Hey Steve, can you see us? Steve! So it's just about 6 o'clock. Obviously I'm having a lot of fun. I love doing this. I love calling the play-by-play on the weather. And it just doesn't get any better than what we've witnessed tonight.